launch this slideshow. I will pass the spots already covered and begin. I want to start by thanking everyone for the opportunity to share. As Stuart has explained, the Transformative Educator program is a faculty professional development opportunity that lets faculty develop the skills to be able to teach in ways that have a transformative learning focus. And one of the reasons that we're so excited about this program is that it benefits not just faculty, but faculty teaching in this manner certainly has a very, very strong positive impact on students, which I'll show in a minute, but also for the institution in a number of areas, as well as local and global community, including employers. So what I want to accomplish in the few minutes that I have here is basically a couple things. One, I'll spend a little bit of time talking about transformative learning and why it is such a perfect match for higher education to meet the challenges that higher ed faces today, and to give you a little bit of an understanding about transformative learning. The earlier poll showed that there are many that have some idea, some a good bit, but a lot of you may not be that familiar with transformative learning. And then I want to get straight into what has been our university's operationalization of transformative learning, so that you're comfortable understanding that there are tools, processes, training, tracking, assessment, documentation, all as a part of what transformative learning is and does. So there's a little bit of the theory behind transformative learning and why it works so well, but then there's also the practitioner-oriented information that I'll share concerning how it actually works. So I've mentioned the challenges that higher ed is facing right now. I won't go through the long list because you all know the kinds of challenges that your institutions are facing, and higher ed in general for that matter. And we'll talk about why TL matches those challenges. And here's a beginning comment about that. Transformative learning adapts to and is compatible with all kinds of classes, whether you're using high impact practices, whether you're teaching at the undergraduate level, the graduate level, online, face-to-face, blended environments, laboratory sections. In other words, the point here is that transformative learning is not a unique standalone thing that you do when you teach. It is a process that you use in your teaching, and it is highly adaptable. You may wonder what are the reasons that institutions might want to do it. Some of those, as shown with data, are what we've experienced here at the University of Central Oklahoma. Students who engage with transformative learning have improved retention, improved academic performance, and incidentally, later on in a few minutes, I'll show some slides with some of these data and data analyses, specifically for STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Students who engage with Stellar have even higher retention. And it's important to note that this retention improvement is not just for good students. This is for all students, including what we call here our at-promise students, first generation, low income, underrepresented students. We've got 6 years worth of data running on this, large N analyses. All our statistical significance levels are at 0.05 or better. And so it's a proven commodity. And it meets these challenges. I said I wouldn't list them a minute ago. Here they are. You can see them on the screen. Lots of institutions are facing these challenges, and TL helps meet them. I'll explain how. Transformative learning also is something that works for faculty, for students, for administrators, but it's important to note that when an institution implements a transformative learning approach, that means they are then equipped to gather data that can prove that they are developing students in what we call beyond disciplinary areas. You may use the term soft skills or essential skills, but many times accreditors want to know how you are doing that and how you prove that you are doing that. And you'll see some of the ways that we prove it as a result of the way we engage students and faculty with transformative learning. This also is important documentation for government entities and for local, regional, and global communities, because when you graduate students that possess these kinds of skills, they're motivated and they have the skills to begin contributing immediately in their communities. So these three questions I want to answer very quickly. What is transformative learning? How is it different from what may be the current teaching model at your institutions? And how does it benefit all of these constituencies? Quickly, transformative learning is an approach to teaching that prompts learners' development into humans so that they have expanded perspectives of themselves, their relationships to others, the community, the environment, and it develops the motivation to contribute to the social good. So when you ask yourself, does teaching the content in the classroom automatically accomplish that? Typically, the answer is no, because the content is focused, of course, on the chemistry or the sociology or the education or philosophy, whatever is being taught in the class. Transformative learning still accomplishes all of that, but adds this very key component about personal development. It's a kind of learning that requires students to become aware of their own biases and to begin to develop the skills to overcome those biases. And it moves education from a transmissive model, the faculty just depositing, if you will, knowledge into the heads of learners, if that can even be done, to a transactional model, which is I give you this grade in exchange for what you give back to me, to a truly transformative model, which is what this transformative learning paradigm is all about. So how is it different? Critical self-reflection is a key component of how students engage with transformative learning. That is typically not something that happens in a stand and deliver, sage on the stage kind of transmissive education. But the reason this critical self-reflection is so important is that it develops for the students their abilities to think critically. It focuses on helping students learn, not just content delivery, and the ability for students to be lifelong learners is very important in this day and time. And it develops those soft skills that I mentioned a moment ago. Then how does it serve my institution, students, faculty, and the community? We've made the points about better retention, better graduation rates, better student academic achievement. It better serves all kinds of students, whether they are high achievers, first-time students, first person in their family to attend college, while also engaging the faculty. Many times we hear faculty say, this reinvigorated me as a teacher, and it prepares your graduates to contribute immediately as employees in the workforce, as citizens, as family members. I'm going to not go deep into the philosophy and theory of transformative learning and have simplified it to a three-step process. The first step is what's called a disorienting dilemma. The students have to somehow make sense of some new piece of information that doesn't fit within their worldview. That throws them off. It disorients them. The way they have to then try to solve that dilemma is to engage in critical self-reflection. And in transformative learning, they learn how to do that. And what happens then, even though it may take time over the course of a student's undergraduate career, for example, they change and expand their perspectives. A good example would be a student who, coming to university, might have stereotypical or limited views of people different from themselves. If they are led to good critical self-reflection on global and cultural competency topics, then they change that limiting perspective and are able to work with people who are different from them. So with apologies for brevity and oversimplification, these are some of the major theorists in transformative learning. I won't call them out, but I do want to show the slide to make the point. This is a researched way to teach students that began in the mid-1970s, and it has a very rich history of success in adult education, in higher education, and has been proven across many years. The critical component is, as I mentioned, reflection. And there's research that shows that when students engage in reflection as they learn, they perform better, they learn more. So as Stuart explained, our method of operationalizing transformative learning is the student transformative learning record. And the way we define transformative learning is what you see here in these 2 points. It develops students' soft skills, essential skills, and it expands students' perspectives of their relationships to self, others, community, and environment. Many of you are familiar with surveys of employers. And in those surveys, employers express dissatisfaction about the preparation for graduates to work at their place of employment. This particular study was an excellent one, longitudinal, over 3 years. You can see how many hiring managers were involved, and over 20,000 new hires were hired at 312 companies, organizations, institutions during that time. And the research question was, what are the top reasons that new employees fail? The definition of failure was they are fired, they're terminated, let go within 6 months of their hire date, or they don't get the promotion that would reasonably be expected during that time. And if you noticed on that list of the top 5 reasons, the top 4 are skills that are developed via a transformative learning approach that do not show up on the academic transcript. And so these are the skills that we seek to develop as a transformative learning approach. Our particular model happens to include 5 broad areas for student development to have them get these expanded perspectives. Many of these you have already, I'm sure, at your own institutions. Your own institutions say, for example, you develop graduates and students to be leaders. You develop them to be able to work in the community and to engage civically. But these are the five here at our university. I said I'd share some data with you. Here you see 5 years worth of data about the improvement in retention among students who engage with Stellar compared to students who don't. The difference between what you see as the purple bar, which is labeled high Stellar, and the silver bar, which is labeled as low Stellar, is that high Stellar engagements required and included a reflective artifact that was assessed by a faculty or a staff member. Low Stellar was students engaging in activities in which they were assessed at only the basic level of being exposed to a particular area of development. Here you see some of the data showing the improvement in academic performance as measured by grade point average, once again across 5 years among our students. And this is an important slide because you can see that this is that at promise population that I described a minute ago. Stellar works, transformative learning works, whether you're talking high achieving students or students that are not high achieving, and it boosts those students' achievement. And then I had mentioned the excellent retention lifts that STEM students get when they engage with transformative learning. And then this is simply the layout of what our Stellar Employer Advisory Board members told us was their thinking concerning what a graduate from our university who had engaged with Stellar should possess skills to do immediately upon hire. And we took what they told us under each of these 5 areas, and we laid them out like a metro map. And the transfer stations on the metro map are skills. For example, right here is a transfer station where the skill of being able to work with all types of people is what our Stellar Employer Advisory Board members told us someone who had achieved well in health and wellness, who had achieved well in service learning and civic engagement, and in global and cultural competency would be able to do with that particular skill. So it's just an interesting visualization of what these hiring managers and vice presidents of human resources told us when we gathered them together for a work session. These representatives to our Employer Advisory Board, incidentally, represent most of the major workforce sectors in our metropolitan area. We have 3 levels of achievement in these essential skill areas. The lowest level we just happen to call exposure because we know it means that the student has been exposed, for example, to a concept in leadership, but there hasn't been any evidence that the student has shown yet that the student is beginning to understand how leadership impacts her individually. But the second level is integration, and a student assessed at that level is assessed that way because the faculty member or the staff member knows and can tell in the artifact the student provides that he or she is beginning to integrate an understanding of what leadership really means for her and how she interacts or he interacts with other individuals. And the student who reached transformation is demonstrating that that top level of a transformative, expanded understanding is what the student has achieved. We have rubrics that faculty are trained in. This is one example of one faculty member's rubric that she adapted from our big overall, much more detailed service learning and civic engagement rubric. But the main point here is that this is a quality vetted approach to being able to assess students' students' progress as they progress in the transformative learning program. And then the documentation. How do students know and have a piece of documentation that shows their development? That is in what we call our stellar snapshot. And this is a very important document for a number of reasons. Our graduates include this document along with their academic transcript, their cover letter, and their resume when they are submitting materials for a job application interview, for example. But it's also a very important document because we designed it to be formative, not just summative. And the students themselves are able to customize this document because anything that they can choose to show has been vetted and assessed at the university. The other way that this is a formative document is that students can put the order of which of the, we call them tenets, they would like to have at the top of the document. So it's customizable, and yet it's an official document of the university that carries the registrar's seal. And then finally, this is a wonderful document to be able to have at your university because we also use it to give the students a chance to, in a simulated situation before they get into the real world, tell their own story in using this document, their academic transcript, and other things that they would use in an interview, because we require all students applying for student worker positions, research assistant positions, on-campus scholarships to submit this document along with their application materials. And then when they're interviewed for the scholarship or the position, they get practice doing this, telling their own story before they're in the real world talking to an employer. So, do our faculty like it, accept it? Absolutely. We have had enormous success with faculty buy-in. Very crucially, it's important to understand that when faculty understand what transformative learning and the process of doing it provides them, it's very exciting to them because for the first time, it lets them see their own impact on the human development of their students. Otherwise, they don't know. They hope they're having a good impact on their students' human development, but with Stellar, you can track it. You can see it over time. And this quote from a business faculty member puts that into words. Here is one of our graduates. So in a student's perspective, she is saying that this approach was one of the best things that she ever did in college. And we hear that over and over again from our students. And I love this quote from Patrick Owuwa, president of Ashesi University in Ghana. We can no longer afford to graduate engineers who can only follow directions. We must graduate engineers prepared to ask what ought to be. And that's this very key and important aspect of what transformative learning can do to meet challenges of the 21st century. We need students and graduates who are creators and contributors, not just consumers, because it is the creators and contributors who will solve the vexing problems that society and our institutions face. So, in summary, transformative learning is possible in both the curriculum and the co-curriculum at scale, university-wide. It shifts the institution from the old way of teaching, called the teaching paradigm, to the student-centered learning paradigm, and it can be done. The first step is faculty development, faculty trained in knowing how to do it. And finally, we've been successful here with transformative learning, but other universities in the US and around the world have adopted this process and succeeded with it in their university culture, with their university mission. And these are some of the other institutions that have adopted Stellar as an approach to putting transformative learning in place. And so with that, I will stop sharing, hand things back to you, Stuart, and Dr. Betts is up next. And so Stuart, you're host now.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Dr. King. That was a very insightful presentation, and the feedback is fantastic. There are some questions in the Q&A field which I will allow you to address while we pass this over to Dr. Don Betts. Good morning, in fact, good evening.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Stuart and Jeff, and ladies and gentlemen. I know it's February the 8th where you are, and I'm delighted to join this conversation. It's fascinating for me to listen to Jeff, who I have heard countless times, speak about transformative learning, because it reminds me of the last 10 or 11 years as the University of Central Oklahoma moved in this direction, with him playing a hugely important leadership role. You have to understand that this kind of work, it takes a great deal of energy and time, but it is so incredibly rewarding. And what I'm struck by when I see Jeff's graphs and I see the information that's there about telling you how students have done being stellarized, so to speak, involve transformative learning, it absolutely reminds me that this just doesn't happen by one person. It's such a group effort. And at the same time, while you have that data, which is so important, please don't lose sight of the impact it has on individuals. I have watched countless numbers of students and faculty literally change the direction of their learning patterns because of transformative learning and the transformative learning record that we've been able to devise along the way. UCO was greatly encouraged in this work early on after Jeff joined us, because we've been doing some work in this realm earlier, but it was almost 7 or 8 years ago now when the US Department of Education, based on a grant proposal that we had submitted, actually funded our vision of what transformative learning could be for the next several years. And when we made that grant proposal, frankly, we did not know it had a chance to be funded, but the grantors realized that there was something unusually worthwhile in this work, and also that it can't happen in a day, that you really have to make that kind of longer term commitment where you go deep into the institution and you change the way you look at what you do every day. So when Jeff points, for example, to the issue of faculty development, there is no more crucial variable in realizing the outcomes of transformative learning than faculty development. And I know experience many years that circumstances where certain elements of among faculty don't believe they can or should be developed because they already have their terminal degrees and are doing their research work, et cetera. But this is a different kind of commitment. It's moving yourself as a faculty member, being able to elicit from students this kind of beyond disciplinary expertise, creates their opportunity that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So as you develop each faculty member, you're actually developing your institution's capacity and ability to transform the lives of the students that have come in your direction. We have found that Stellar has been embraced, as Jeff had mentioned, by employers who see it as valuable to them when trying to understand who's going to join their team and the kind of skills they're bringing forth to be of the solutions that they are seeking. And we've also found in presenting Stellar to a broad number of audiences internationally, through the International Association of University Presidents, for example, as early as 2014, when we were more in our formative stage, that almost to the rector, president, and chancellor, there has been a tremendous amount of interest and follow-up. Each one of those women and men saw within TL and Stellar some dimension of how they think they can improve the opportunities that they can create through their institution. This happened time and again on virtually every continent. So I feel extremely confident that what Jeff and Stuart are presenting here today has a tremendous amount of viability and applicability to what you are seeking. About a year ago, there was a book published in the United States as a result of years of research by a noted higher education writer and researcher. His name is Steve Ehrman, and his book is called Pursuing Quality, Access, and Affordability, the Field Guide for Improving Higher Ed. Why do I tell you about this book? Because Steve did an amazing amount of background work across the country and picked 5 examples of institutions out of the 3,000 or 4,000 that we have in the United States that were doing extraordinarily important work in the areas of quality, access, and affordability. And Steve Ehrman, the author, became focused on what UCO was doing in transformative learning and actually changed the contour of his book as he proceeded. Why do I tell you this? Because this is not just a Jeff or a Don or a UCO saying to you that transformative learning is significant and important and actually makes a difference. There are others looking and seeing the same outcome. So my little presentation here today is to tell you that years of work in higher education and having seen all kinds of opportunities for us to enhance the quality of education, please take a very serious look at what you're going to be hearing next about transformative learning and how that can have a demonstrably significant impact on the people pledged to educate in the many coming years. We have to continually adapt to society's needs based on the relevant experience we've had at UCO. We believe that this paradigm, this TL paradigm, can really be accomplished in a way that can make a difference at your institution. It animates the curriculum and the co-curriculum. It impacts the student, it impacts the educator. And over these many years, we've been most encouraged. I can tell you, having been president at that institution as well as others, and a longtime faculty member, that TL works. And I hope you have the opportunity to implement it on your campuses as well. Stuart, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Betts. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And folks, I hope you appreciate that we invited Don Betts because it really does take that kind of vision at the leadership level of an institution to create that small change that can then blossom out to an entire campus. So, and that is exactly what we witnessed at UCO. So thank you both very much for joining us. I really appreciate your insights. I want to just quickly go back to sharing my screen and ask for Jeff to go through the actual Transformative Educator program itself. And while I do that, I'll just talk about where is it gone? When I do that, I'll just talk about the program itself. So the program is a 12-week course, and that'll be starting on March the 28th and running through to June the 28th. Now, these are synchronous courses, which come with a 10 hours each course. There's 4 courses in the program, and every course will contain a 90-minute instructor-led kind of a webinar discussion. And what we're proposing essentially is a low-risk approach to introducing transformative learning at your institution. So, Jeff, I will pass this over to you and move on to the next slide. Oh, you're on mute, I think, Jeff.
Thank you, Stuart. I will come back to finishing up my answer to the last question in the Q&A in a moment. But very quickly, regarding the program itself, what we are proposing is that we would begin our first cohort on March 28th. There are 4 courses in what you could think of as a kind of mini curriculum that faculty would go through to develop the skills to be able to teach in transformative learning focused approaches. You see these 4 courses, what they are, and a brief description of their content. But when a faculty member goes through in this cohort model, the first course, that's roughly 10 hours of engagement. These are asynchronous and self-paced, but we anticipate most faculty take about 10 hours to go through one course, and then we will offer a 90-minute webinar, which will be reflective discussions. And as long as the faculty member attends one of those during the time of the course, then that total time of engagement is 11.5 hours. So you can see that when you do the math, going through these 4 courses equals about 46 hours worth of training in how to be a faculty member teaching using transformative learning focused approaches. And roughly it would take in the cohort model about 3 months. Over time then, after you have a group of faculty trained in how to do this and they begin doing it, then your own university with your university assessment, your institutional research operations are going to be able to track the kinds of improvements, whether it be in retention or in faculty engagement, things of that nature, that will be very useful, as I mentioned earlier, for accreditors. What you see on this screen is the series of steps, if you will, for becoming a transformative educator, as you, a faculty member, would be achieving the following learning outcomes. And these are the overall outcomes, if you will, across the whole of the 4 courses, so that you would be able to, for example, create well-constructed reflective prompts for the students to respond to, and then be able to use a set of rubrics to assess them in these essential skill areas. And you'd be able to see your students' development over time because of the way that the reflective aspects or components had been associated with your existing assignments. I was making a point in one of the Q&A answers that it's important to understand a transformative learning approach doesn't mean that faculty have to put new content in their classes. They simply adapt one of the skill areas, one or more, to an existing assignment so that the students do those assignments the way they always have, but the faculty member is trained in how to include a reflective prompt that connects with the assignment. And when students turn in the assignment, they also provide the reflective artifact, which is their own process of development over time, but it's also the artifact that is assessed. So the process of going through these 4 trainings is what will get faculty to that point. And Stuart, now that you're down at the deliverables, this gets more into the KEDx operation, and I'll let you address that while I finish up the last answer here in the Q&A.
Okay, and thanks again. And Dr. Betts and Dr. King will be available through the Q&A as I just go through the last few slides, and we still have time for the Q&A. So a lot of you will be wondering, okay, how does this work? Well, these are asynchronous-based courses combined with instructor-led from Brazil, Nepal, Australia, and the USA. So we've got a wonderfully kind of like I would say, international team of transformative educators working with us. And what I want to quickly just do now is jump into KEDx to show you how that would appear. And so this is all based within the KEDx community. And the idea behind this is that we want to be able to give everybody access, an opportunity to meet each other, because we have transformative educators joining us from all around the world. So we want to provide them with an opportunity. Can someone see my screen? Is it the KEDx homepage? Thanks. Okay. And essentially, the KEDx courses will be held in the group area here. And what we have in this group page is all of the private and public groups for the institutions to be a part of. So you can see here we have universities from all around the world joining this professional development platform already. And here we have the Transformative Educator program. So this is a private group, and this is where we'll be admitting all of your faculty to this particular group here, but they also get access to the rest of the platform, and they can create a professional development profile and enjoy and network and things like this. But the actual, if we go into the group, you'll see here that we have a private area, and here is where everybody kind of like gets to talk about what is going on. And this is where we'll have Zoom feeds, and I'll just go back here and show you the courses. And the courses are also popular. So the courses will be specifically housed in the Transformative Educator program. And you can see here that we've got part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. But we've also put a complementary course in called Change Management by Dr. Catherine Welberg, who is the provost at Athens State University. This is also for leadership, to support them in their change management and their kind of like ways of, maintaining and creating this shift, this paradigm shift across the institution. Again, what we're proposing here is that by the end of June, we will have your faculty trained in becoming transformative educators. From that point onwards, we will be able to say, well, now you are able to take this cohort And from September for the next academic year, from September to August 2023, you'll be able to measure your own results, and you'll be able to see, within your own kind of institution, the benefits this has had, and whether or not it is something that you wish to consider developing. So again, it's a low risk. It's a very kind of like well-constructed approach that we've got these 40 hours and plus the contact hours of 6 with the instructors. It will really give you that opportunity to make that informed decision of yourself. So everything is based through here. There are reflective elements where when they complete their courses, they have to reflect about what they've learned. They go away between each course and they will have a discussion with Dr. King and the instructors when they come back. And the idea is that you will get a report at the end of the 12 weeks. We'll show you the process. You'll see that the certificates have all been approved by Quality Matters. If you can just see my PowerPoint here as well. Can you see that, Jeff? Yes, you can see here that this is the overall arching transformative education program, Educator program, with 46 contact hours, and learning outcomes here are listed as well. So this is what the achievements come out of, and basically you'll be able to, for a very low risk investment of 20 participants or more if you wish, you can contact us, but for $450 per person, 46 contact hours, it's very, very affordable. We've made this affordable so we can scale it across the whole entire world. And as I said, you'll be able to have that measure and ready to go by September 2023. Just quick, we do have 1 or 2 minutes left, but I want you to know that the Caspia Foundation is the philanthropic arm of our business, and this is where we pay it forward. So everything that we, all of our revenues that we bring in, the profits, most of our profits go into the Caspia Foundation, and this is where we have 2 initiatives going on for 2022, supporting 2 million teacher graduates in the USA with tools and courses for K-12. And also as part of our initiative, we're wanting to support the Iraqi K-12 teacher initiative, where we want to be able to give them free resources for over 340,000 K-12 teachers in the world. That was a very kind of like a quick kind of summary of how it will work. I would like to just put my last question in the poll now, if you don't mind. And we want to just be able to say, are you ready to join this transformation? We want to be able to say, here is a small group of people around the world, and we can train you and we can make those changes. This is a proven result. These guys at UCO have done this for 7 years now, and I think you'll be hearing a lot more about this transformative educator program around the world as we move forward. So I have just hit the top of the hour of our webinar, so we sped through that, but thank you so much. There are some questions in the chat field. So Jeff, if you'd like to quickly run through these, if there's anything that we've missed, please chime in and unmute yourself. And
yes, I did finish up the questions in the Q&A. I'll take a quick look at some chat questions if there's something I can answer in just a second.
Yes, we need the first we need transformative leadership in place, which is exactly why we introduced Dr. Betts to you, because it can be done, and we will also give you support with the leadership to make those kind of changes. And I'm sure Dr. Betts would be one who'd be more than happy to continue a dialogue with you personally for leadership, and to encourage you and make sure that this is an ongoing exercise. Again, look, thank you everyone for joining. It's great to see so many people of you participating. I will be in touch over the next week, and we're very keen to start rolling this out. And from this small group of people wanting to make change, the movement will get bigger. We will increase this, and it's available in Arabic, in Turkish, it's available in Bengali, it's Hindu, Punjabi in India. It's, we can have all of these kind of courses available in any language we want. And for specific courses relating to your country, we can also bring in translators for these courses as well. So we have it all available. It's sustainable. And so we're welcoming you all to our first cohort on March the 28th. It's very limited spaces. So please be sure to spend the first part of your decision to say, yes, we want to do this. And then the second part of your decision is to find how we put together this faculty of cohort. One quick point on that before we leave. Jeff, what is the recommended way of selecting a cohort?
We have had institutions that have decided to start with, for example, one faculty. We had the largest university in Ireland, for example, began with their College of Business, but we have had other institutions where it has been a much more distributed model, and the initial faculty training included faculty from many departments among many faculties at the university. So there's not really a specified way to do it. We have seen it done multiple ways. At our university, we trained faculty from all disciplines in groups right at the very beginning. And for us, that worked out very well. So I would think that that would be a local determination, but just be assured that whichever way you go, getting faculty trained in how to do this can only be a positive for the students that those faculty teach.
Thank you. Brilliant. And closing remarks, Dr. Betts?
I'm sorry, Stuart.
Do you have any closing thoughts, remarks?
I think this has been a unique experience tonight, watching the chat and the Q&A, and then listening to Jeff's presentation. I think there is a real energy around what was being discussed, and I look forward, Stuart, to the next steps that the colleagues will take based on what I've been reading. So very, very, very pleased. And regarding the comment regarding the leadership issue, it is important, and I'm most willing to speak to whomever may be helpful.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful. I've really enjoyed today. It's been fascinating. We've had some great participation and great questions coming in from the audience. As ever, it's a pleasure to have you both with us on this transformative journey. And I will be in touch with you all soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate your time. And we look forward to seeing you soon on the Transformative Education program.